This is Danae, and today's video is all about Chopin Study Opus 25 number 2. This is a very requested video. I did two videos on Chopin studies in the past, one about Opus 10 number 1 and the other about Opus 10 number 2. I can link both of them in the description box down below if you haven't seen them yet. And many of you asked me if I can do some more videos on other Chopin studies. So today I decided to make the next one on Opus 25 number 2. I find that this study is a great study to start with. This one and also Opus 25 number 1, so basically those first two from the Opus 25 cycle, I find are on the easier side compared to the other Chopin studies. They're also not easy, but compared to the other ones, they are more doable, I would say. I also think that you can make kind of the fastest progress there, and you can get them to a pretty high level and a pretty fast tempo rather quickly compared to some other studies in the cycle. Opus 10 number 1 and 2, for example, I find are not beginner pieces at all. I would suggest that you start practicing them with the exercises from very early on, but don't expect to be able to play through them in a matter of 1 month. That would be pretty amazing if you're able to do that. But today I'm going to be talking about Opus 25 number 2. For me personally, this was also the first study that I ever played by Chopin. I was pretty young when I started it, and today I'm going to be getting a little more into the exercises that I did that I find helped me the most to get it to a final tempo, and the exercises that I find were most effective. So to begin with, I think it's important to get an overview of the structure of this study, and I mean specifically the rhythmical structure, because the right hand is playing triplets and the left hand is playing triplets, but the one hand is playing them in eighth notes and the other one in quarter notes. This means that for every quarter note that the left hand is playing, the right hand is playing 2 notes. So for a triplet of the left hand, the right hand has 6 notes. However, you can divide a group of 6 notes in 2 ways. You can either do 2 times 3 or 3 times 2. And what the score says is 2 times 3. There are 2 triplets written, so 3 plus 3, while the left hand is playing the quarter triplets. And the danger when you play this study is that you then fall into the pattern of playing 3 times 2, since you're playing 2 notes in the right hand for each of the left hand's notes. So I think it's important that when you're practicing it, when you're doing your slow run-throughs, you consciously try to remember the right hand is supposed to be playing triplets as well. It's not supposed to end up sounding like da 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 da. It's supposed to be da 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 da. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and not 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. When you play it through, of course, it's inevitable that at some points and in some bars, it's going to somehow sound like that. But it's good if you have a basic feeling of 2 different rhythms. Triplets of 8th notes in the right hand and then quarter triplets in the left hand. So this is just a general thing to keep in mind when you're doing all the exercises for this study. I usually start with some exercises for the right hand. The first one is that I divide up the group of 6 notes into 2 plus 4, and I play 2 slow notes and then 4 fast notes. I do this for the entire study, and then I turn it around and I play 4 fast notes and then 2 slow notes. After that, I do a very similar exercise, only that I take the entire bar, which is a total of 12 notes, and I divide it into 3 slow notes and 9 fast notes. The 9 notes, I try to play as fast as I play the 3 slow ones. So for each slow one, I play 3 fast ones. I do this for the entire study as well, and then I switch it around and I play 9 fast ones and 3 slow ones. I find that this exercise is rather uncomfortable, but I think it is very helpful because it also puts your mind toward the direction of playing triplets, what I mentioned in the beginning, rather than playing 3 groups of 2 to playing 2 groups of 3, since you're dividing it up into triplets and not into 2 notes at a time. The next exercise that I do is that I stop on 1 note of the triplet. So this I alternate each day. So on one day, for example, I will stop on the first note, then play until the next first note of the triplet, and so on. And then on other days, I will stop on the second note. And again, on the next day, I will stop on the third note. After having done these exercises for the right hand, I usually take a break for my right hand and focus on the left hand. As it is so often the case in Chopin studies, I think it is essential that the hand that seems quote unquote easier, which would be the left hand in this one, is very, very secure and is not neglected at all. This is why I always put a big emphasis on practicing it separately, on practicing it properly as well, so that when you have the harder hand joining, this one is definitely going to be perfect and you won't be wasting any energy and too many thoughts on that one. So I practice the left hand separately, slow, and also a bit faster. And then I have an exercise where I try to make a point of pressing my 5th finger, or if it is another finger, the lowest note of the triplet, which is usually the first one, and keeping it pressed while playing the other notes. So kind of forming a chord. And I do this because I find that it gives me more security in which keys I'm pressing. If I'm holding it there while pressing the other 2 fingers, my hand is kind of getting used to this chord position. And then when I'm playing through and of course not holding the 5th finger, I feel like that my hand and my muscles in general know where to go, rather than if I hadn't been doing this exercise. I play through the entire left hand, and I try to be very musical when I do it. I try to imagine exactly what it would be like having the right hand on top, sometimes even playing it silently on my leg or in the air, just so that I feel what maybe little weird things my hand is doing when the right hand would join, and then correcting them in time before they turn into some kind of permanent mistake that I don't notice anymore. After that, I go back to the right hand, and basically the next exercise is dividing it up into sections that keep growing and playing it in your tempo of that time. So I would suggest using the metronome for this exercise, and if your tempo, let's say, would be 120 for one of the triplets, which is pretty slow, I would then put it to 120 and then first play a group of 1 triplet for the entire study, then a group of 2 triplets, then a group of 4 triplets, which would mean 1 bar, and then 2 bars in the end. Again, this exercise I would suggest doing at the fastest tempo that is possible for you at the moment. If, for example, when you're playing through the study, you're at a slower tempo, that doesn't matter at all, as long as you're kind of pushing yourself on this exercise. So when I started learning the study and couldn't play through it in tempo yet, I would practice the right hand in tempo with the metronome for this exercise. For example, for, let's say, the half bar, I would already be in tempo, playing da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. And then when going to the 2 bar, I'd be a bit slower, but my fingers were already going into the direction of that fast tempo by playing the little sections in tempo already. I think it's very helpful to set a tempo for each exercise that works for you. First of all, just so that you can put on the metronome and make sure that you're playing in time very well, but also as a kind of orientation for you, so that you know, okay, I've been at, let's say, 160 for the past week. I feel pretty secure now. I can increase it to 168. And if you have your maximum tempo for each exercise, which will obviously be a faster tempo for the smaller section and then probably a slower tempo for the bigger sections, then the bigger sections are also going to get into the tempo faster because you've already been practicing it for the small sections. The goal, of course, is to get all of the exercises into the final tempo, but please don't be impatient or expect that this is going to happen within a couple of days. It does take time, and it's important that you let some time pass by so that all these notes and all these movements can really sink into your hand, into your muscle memory, and that you can mentally really digest them, I would say, so that you are very secure when you go into the higher speed. And then as the final exercise, I would play through the study completely, as I said, at the tempo that was possible for me at the time. Now, of course, I've reached the final tempo, so I'm going to play through it in the final tempo. But if you are at a half speed right now, that's totally fine. Play through it at your tempo and increase it slowly as you go. I really hope that you enjoyed this video about Chopin Study Opus 25 No. 2, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!